Welcome to our first episode of Rotten Taste. Today, we are looking at the film Men at Work, starring Charlie Sheen and Emilio Estevez, and actually written and directed by Emilio Estevez, too.
I
It
know.
currently has a 30% score on Rotten Tomatoes. Soto, this is the movie when we talked about the bad movies we love. This is the first one you brought up. So I'm going to
Yeah.
give it to you. Why do you love this movie?
Yeah, I think I have to preface this with this kind of story first, if you don't mind. It's gonna kind of paint the picture of Men at Work, I think, for me, and just what I've thought about Men at Work since I rewatched it the other day. So up until my life, up until The Phantom Menace, Star Wars, the prequels and everything like that, um, I don't think I had a very big concept of like what a bad movie was. I would watch anything and everything from every stupid Steven Seagal movie, Jean-Claude Van Damme movies, pretty much like we talked about, anything that was like on HBO or anything that was like replaying over and over again. I just watched it. I watched it to watch it, and I watched it with a non-critical eye. So then the Star Wars prequels get announced. We can do a whole episode about the Star Wars prequels and the Phantom Menace at some point, I'm sure. But the prequels get announced. I'm super stoked. I see the trailer for the Phantom Menace. I'm super excited. I'm like, oh my god, this is gonna be life-changing situation. However old I was when it came out. Um, and then I watched the Phantom Menace, and I watched it in theater. I remember I skipped school that day. I believe I skipped some sort of anatomy field trip and everything like that, just to call it sick and watch it on day one. And so I watched it, and at the end of it, I had this feeling that I had never had before in my life. And it was like very hard to describe. Like everything in my body was like, I love Star Wars. I think Star Wars is great. I've always enjoyed all of my movie experiences, no matter how bad they are. And I've seen some really, really bad movies. But I was left with this really weird feeling of unease. And it wasn't until like 20 fucking years later that I started realizing that that was the line of demarcation where my brain was actually like, this is what a bad movie is like. And I started kind of seeing movies in a completely different way. Um, Men at Work was one of those movies that I used to watch all the time as a kid because it was always on. And I loved it. It appealed to my stupid adolescent mind, which, by the way, I still have. And there were a lot of things about it that I just couldn't get enough of. And I actually think that even past the whole like Phantom Menace like line of demarcation, like even in college when I'd be with my roommate, we would watch this and have some sort of like weird like obsession with watching Men at Work. And when I had actually written a script for my junior or senior project at school, one of the things when we were writing the script was like, oh my God, that's just like Men at Work, because we thought Men at Work was like this slapstick comedy that was the best thing ever. Now, I want to go ahead and say this up front. I still think that this is very much an entertaining movie, but there were things that I rewatched about it that I was like, what the fuck?
Yeah, I kind of agree. Well, I know we're going to get into that. For me, I know this movie came out in 1990, and
Sure
I
did.
was 12, but it
Hmm.
wasn't until when I was like 15, 16, 17, because both my parents we talked about had HBO, and I swear it was constantly on HBO. But it's awesome when I
Yes.
got cable in my room because like you, it's just like what movies can I find, and this was constantly on, and I don't know why I loved it. It was just two bumbling idiots
Hmm.
with high dreams. They want to open the surf. Now I don't know what. I never wanted to open a surf shop, but I do have the high dreams. Just like the shit job, high dreams, and
Yeah.
even as we're an adult, that kind of changes. I'm like, God, 10 years ago we were both like, yeah, fuck our jobs. Let's go for the stars.
Yeah.
But
Hmm.
for me, I was more of a Estevez fan growing up. Young Guns.
Yeah.
I know Charlie Sheen was in it, but Young Guns, my Ducks. And so when I saw this, I don't know what it was. I felt like remembering it. It was definitely more slapstick and more comedy.
Hmm.
Rewatching it, I was like, oh yeah, there's a few other things in there that either just skipped my mind. Because mind you, I don't think I watched this in over 20 years, personally. But I
Yeah.
still enjoyed it.
25 for
It
me or
was
so, yeah.
so stupid that I definitely still enjoyed it.
Hmm.
Um, and I don't even know where to begin. I mean, for those who don't know, this is about two garbage men who basically uncover, a plot to cover up, spilling chemicals. That's it. That's just, and
It's
I
the
don't know.
ocean.
into the ocean.
Yeah.
I don't know how these two become heroes because to me, all of a sudden they're just bumbling idiots, and then they're getting into fist fights. You know what I mean? So
Okay, so here's the thing though, right? Like, so Charlie Sheen's character, right? Because there's a lot to unpack here. Starts off the movie by literally being a peeping Tom to this woman across the way,
yep,
and is like watching people through his binoculars and shit, and literally being the creepiest asshole in the world. Then there's this strange 20 something minute setup in which, yeah, we learn that, through exposition and bullshit that they're surfers and they want to open up a surf shop because they hate their current jobs. And then they're like in rivalries, like all around town with like cops, like their
fellow
coworkers and
trashmen's.
shit like
Yeah,
that. Yeah. And I'm like, okay. So there was a lot going on that I'm like, that's a lot different than I remember. And the fact that Charlie Sheen's character is only rewarded for his behavior by this woman after, by the way, they like fall in love in like 2 minutes. Like
yeah.
the
She's
whole
very
thing, he comes into
trustworthy
her
in this
house.
situation.
She immediately starts drinking with a stranger coming into her house, which, by the way, I know a lot of females, and there's no way that would happen. They meet some random guy in the hallway. He comes in, and all of a sudden they're drinking and everything, and all of a sudden it becomes a thing. Like, that relationship comes together in like 2 fucking seconds. I was
Yeah,
blown away.
yes, and the funny thing about this movie around that time, I learned what a photologist was because of this movie. The
Oh
feeling
god,
that
yeah.
I've always remembered that throughout history. I'm like, I know that because the feeling the bumps of the head were because of Men at Work. But no, I agree, and
I have
I
too.
think this.
Yeah.
I think the second half she becomes a stronger character a little bit. But you're right. The beginning, first, she's trustworthy. I want to go. I want to backtrack. She is the worst. She's basically the manager. Promoting this politician, and she makes a tape, a mixtape. We know nothing about this tape outside of like the one line of the song. You hear "work it, work it, work it," and I'm like, that's it. Not what this politician is about. Not a better
Yeah.
song. Not more lyrics to the song. I'm like, she is the worst promoter ever. And yes, she comes across Charlie Sheen. He's hurt,
Hmm.
and she's like, "Yeah, come on in," and she's weirded out because he knows what alcohol he has.
Yeah, because he's been
Coincidentally, he's like,
peeping.
"Doesn't everybody?" So yes, Charlie Sheen definitely starts off as a peeping tom. And it's weird because you're like you're supposed to root. You do root for him in a way, but you're right. He
Yeah.
starts off very pervy. Emilio Estevez starts off sleeping with some random girl on the beach who he promises to, take surfing. And that's why she wants the board. Like, all right, we don't even know where he met her, what happened to her afterwards. Like, here, have my board. That's it. These two
My
should
God.
be unlikable people. They should be, in all honesty, if you think about real world situations.
Now that
But
I'm thinking about it, yeah, it's like these are the most unlikable garbage guys in the world. But yes, yeah, go ahead.
But yes, for some reason we like them. Yes, they have the fellow cops, which for some reason these cops just don't like them. Obviously, kind of like most jobs, you might have a little rivalry with the coworkers. But I'm like, my God, the thing. First of all, the bags of shit, just pile
Yeah.
everywhere. I'm like, not just against
Hmm.
them. And you like, and then they leave it like, yeah, they clean up the mess. But then the other guys come towards the end, cut the brake line to their truck. I'm like, then it's like that's it. That's the last you see of them is them cutting the brake line, and then those two characters are gone. I'm like, where's the repercussions in this? They're just like, let them crash. They could die, but we don't care because we're going to get the last laugh. And the character,
Oh my
all
God.
not, I guess all the characters should not be likable in this movie, but for some reason, it works, and I don't know why.
There's only one character that I actually like as a person in this movie, and it was my revelation in this movie. That is this movie. I think I really like it because I really love Keith David. Like, Keith David's character is fucking hilarious, and he's the only character, oddly enough, that breaks the fourth wall in this
Yes,
movie.
Rent-a-cops. I hate rent-a-cops too.
What the fuck was that?
I forgot about that and rewatching. But here's my question.
Oh my
I do like him
God.
as a character, but then I start thinking logically. At the end of the movie, now he's tied up both the cops and the rent-a-cops in a very
Yes. Hmm.
suggestive position.
Oh my
With their
God. Yes,
clothes
you're right.
off, and we'll just leave it there.
Yes.
And then I'm like, sooner or later, those cops, what happened to him? Like, how, first of all, how
Yeah.
is he qualified to do this job? He comes along because he's supposed to watch these two guardsmen, make sure they're doing their job properly. He knows nothing. He's doodling. He's just the
Oh, he's
brother-in-law,
not
so
qualified. Yeah,
he's
he's
not
the
qualified,
brother-in-law.
but
That's
he's
all he is.
there. And then he
He's
does
there.
these to cops, and then we're like, yeah, you get those cops. I'm like, okay, that's a little far out there. These cops are going to get
Yeah.
unhandcuffed, and I'm like, you're in jail, dude. But I do like Keith Evan, and obviously the infamous line that you always well, that we've learned by watching this: you never touch another man's fries. It's
No,
sacrilegious.
it's insane. Like, yeah, you're right. As I'm watching it, I'm like, okay, I'm gonna back up here because we need to discuss this part because it just reminded me of it.
Hmm.
Okay, so and sorry for everybody, it's a spoiler, but if you haven't seen Men at Work already, then too bad for you. It came out like 19 fucking 80 something, oh 1990.
1990, but either way, 30
Okay,
years.
all right. So I need your opinion on this shit. All right, he shoots the guy in the ass with the BB gun, right?
Hmm.
Okay. Then they find his dead body along the route, right? They
That's
they
how this all
find his
starts.
dead
Yes.
body
Yep.
in the trash can. Okay, they take him out. And, oh, somebody throw away a perfectly
Perfectly
good
good
white
white
boy.
boy. Yes.
So, so okay, at that point, why does it become like a situation where they're trying to fucking hide the body from the cops? Like that, like clearly he was strangled. Keith David's character says it. Like clearly Charlie Sheen's fucking BB gun shot to the ass did not hurt him, okay, or not
Correct.
kill him,
Yes.
okay.
Correct.
So then all of a sudden it becomes like let's continue to hide the body. And there's one of the reviews here on Rotten Tomatoes that kind of made me laugh because it reminded me of this. But why does it then become like Weekend at Bernie's?
I don't know, and I will tell you, Weekend at Bernie's might be one we do it for one of these episodes down the road. But we're gonna beside the point. I don't know. I don't know if it's the time of movies, pretend dead people are alive. They put on the hat and he's like, oh, he just had too much. These are also the two of the dumbest cops. How do you not see what's going on? But yeah, you're
Yeah,
correct. They have a dead body. Why not like, hey, I know we have this rivalry, but we just found a dead body. Get rid of it, have them take care of it, and move on. The only
right.
reason them saving that body, or basically holding on to that body, for lack of better terms, the only thing it does story wise, it saves that woman's life. Because obviously, if they gave it to the cops, they never would have gone over there. She would have got killed because they had to go get the right tape. Blah blah
Right.
blah. But yeah,
Hmm.
he hates cops, so he doesn't want to give them to the cops. I'm like, it's the one person you should, you know.
It's a
But yeah,
dead body. Like, what the fuck? Like, but you raised a really great point. The only reason that plot device exists is so that literally the movie can keep on going. Like
yeah,
Emilio Estevez, who wrote and directed this, which says a lot, by the way, that he's writing his character to be some like dude who fucks chicks on the beach, and that his brother is some peeping tom, that peeping tom with a heart of gold. Okay, uh, like in the vein of George McFly, like peeping tom with a heart of gold, and everything works out for both of them, and there's no real way for them to advance this plot, so they're just like, let's just find a reason for them to walk around this body, and it keeps getting worse. Because then it's like they have they're like constantly around this dead body. They don't hide it. They like put a
put the
Richard
Richard
Nixon
Nixon
mask on
mask
it.
on. Yes.
Like they're hanging out with it and shit like that. Then it's like they end up having to fucking take the pizza guy fucking hostage.
Yep, and I have to say, I love the pizza guy until one scene, and
Oh
he
God.
was in summer school, and that might be another movie we visit that, and I'm like, that's why I kind of love this character. He kind of starts off realistic. He's just, but I remember hating this part as a kid or a teen when I saw this, and I hated it now. Like him and Lewis pull up in the cop car. They're in the final scene. Bad guys with guns everywhere. Logically, you're like, let me just shut the fuck up, sit in this cop car. I don't know what's happening. I stay out of it. So you
Yeah.
think they're saved. Lewis, like this is the cops. And he's like, yeah, you with the air rifle gun. Just like giving away the whole thing.
So
I'm like, I
dumb.
get it just for a little comic. I'm like, that is by far the dumbest thing. Because he, for the most part, yes, he kind of goes along with it, typical 90s style. But he's just like, I saw nothing. Like, he just wants out. He's like, I'm a pizza man. I'm not going to say shit. And I don't know. Just that always bothered me. Like, dude, you could have just stayed in the car. But yes, they had I'll give all these characters moments. But it
Yeah, them
still
gags.
somehow
Yeah.
works. And the one thing I laughed at the beginning, which I never noticed, or maybe just forgot, is the two bumbling, trope, the bumbling idiot hitman. the license plate says Hitman on the car. I don't know if I remember that. I started dying. I'm like, they both look obvious. They argue over like a taser and laser. Just I
Yeah,
always remember that
yeah.
part. But then I'm like, they're like, let's be less conspicuous. But I
I
don't
think
know.
like when I yeah, I mean I think going back to when I tried to fucking write this stupid ass script in college, I was like, oh, the bodyguards will be like the bodyguards from Men at Work. They'll be super dumb and bumbling and blah blah blah. I'm like, oh my God, what in the world?
But yeah,
But yeah, so
I don't know why, and I know I texted you after rewatching this, and there's one scene, a couple things, because you try and put yourself into the movie a little bit, and as an
hmm
adult, not now, but maybe like 5, 10 years ago, I'm like, God, yeah, I remember us hating our jobs, like, hey, let's get into writing, let's do something else, we just be more creative.
yeah,
Like I could sense that, but there's one scene I died because I'm like, I kind of pictured us having not that we would be hanging on the back of a truck for any reason, you know what I mean? Like trying to save the world because we had been given the dead body weight. But anyhow, when Emilio Estevez character James gets stuck in the gun stock, I just picture that
yes.
you're like, Chad, I think I have a problem here. Hold on, let me think of something. Then I'm like, Soto, what? I didn't think of anything yet. Like the idiot that I laughed, dying because I'm like, that's something we do. You would ask me your problem. Like, hold on. I'm like, I don't have this situation yet.
No,
Oh
that
God.
was there were definitely moments that I laughed out loud still, like
Hmm.
rewatching it, and being like, whatever. It's just that, when you take it as a whole, it's amazing that it's like your brain remembers certain things and then doesn't remember other things, and it's like kind of lasts in your nostalgia of like what this movie was really all about. But yeah, I mean, even the ending is like they're all just like standing on top of a hill, like laughing together as like the fucking main bad guy is like covered in sewage, and they're just like, and then it goes into the what I like to call the 80s, 90s like ending, where it's like there's a pop song that plays and kind of the everything works out like editing montage that happens towards these movies. Like, wow.
But see, all right, talk about the ending. This is when the logical means like, all right, what happened? Because, like you said, first of all,
hmm
Charlie Sheen and this girl just met. I'm like, there's no way
Yeah,
they're lasting. They still, how the fuck did they explain? Yeah, we've held on to this dead body for a while, but this is why. Like, like
for
they
reasons.
they they all should be in jail. The only person that outside of her, because she kind of got dragged into it, the pizza boy is the only one that might get away. Like I said, Lewis tied up cops, what wearing just their boxers, in the middle of a playground. Sooner or
Yeah,
later, yeah. I'm like, where's the
assaulted police
repercussions?
officers.
But that's the way
There
a
were
lot of
none.
the '80s and the '90s movies were, and that's what just makes them great. Because you know what, just like caution the wind. Who cares? Have fun with it. It's just supposed to be a stupid movie, and it's
Yeah.
still enjoyable. Even after watching, like I
Oh
said, I
yeah.
25 years, whatever. Like I still love this movie. I was a little bit worried. I'm like, am I gonna like it like I did as a kid? And yes, I did. I got a little bit more. It's a little bit more things I might not have noticed or might not remembered, but to me,
Yeah.
this was just a great '90s movie, and I loved it. I can still watch this. This was I don't know why this has such a low score. I mean, maybe the critics are hard on just having fun, and but yeah,
I mean, again, I feel the same way too. I think that it's totally unique for its like time. I think it definitely says something about a very specific time in film, where Emilio and Charlie Sheen were relevant and they could get away with something like this where they're like, we're just gonna be garbage men. But I'm glad it's around. I'm glad it's still available. I'm glad people are watching it. And again, it was nice to see this. I'll probably watch it again. I'm pretty sure I have this on DVD somewhere too. Um, this, along with Emilio Estevez's Loaded Weapon 1,
yes,
I think is a pretty good combo because Loaded Weapon 1 is another one of those Emilio Estevez things that just kind of failed miserably, but is actually fucking hilarious, especially if you like Naked Gun movies.
definitely, yeah. I remember that one. That was definitely a good one. It was around that
hmm
time where Estevez was everywhere, but
Oh hell yeah, hell yeah! And little side fact, as I was researching him, I guess he's writing and directing Gun Guns 3, so we'll see what happens there.
yeah, that's a story for another day. I don't know what to think of
Yeah,
that. So
yeah, ruminate on that.
anyhow, that is our first episode of Rotten Taste. We took a look at Men at Work. Let us know what you thought of the movie. Did you like it? Did you hate it? What you liked most about it? Until next time, Soto and Chad here. Talk to you later.
Peace.